Welcome to the Branded Impact Podcast. On this show, we go beyond surface level branding, honest conversations with industry leaders, behind the scenes of aligned brand building, and actionable insights to help you elevate your presence. I'm your host, Jo Espejo, aka Jo. Hit subscribe and join me each week for the Branded Impact Podcast. What if reclaiming your energy and confidence was the key to building a brand that actually sustains you without burnout? Today's guest, Shari Biery, is a purpose and well-being coach, speaker, and author of It's Your Turn. She's also the founder of Alive with Purpose, Health and Life Coaching, and the creator of the C.A.L.M Method, a framework that helps midlife women reclaim their energy, identity, and confidence after years of putting everyone else first. This conversation is about what happens when you stop hustling and you start healing, and how your brand gets stronger the moment you do. So let's dive in. Shari, thank you so much for being with me today. I would love to start with your story. Can you share with us what led you to start or create Alive with Purpose?
Yeah, it's so great to be with you, Jo. And I know we jumped into connecting right away, and we could make this conversation so long. And I just thank you for that. Well, I was a military spouse for 20 years. My husband, at his retirement ceremony in 2018, handed me the American flag, gave me a kiss, and said, "Now it's your turn." And
That
it
just gives me
was,
chills. I have to stop you really quick and just say thank you for your service, because I know it's the men a lot of times that actually make some of the sacrifice, or not some, make sacrifices, but then it's the women and the families at home that also make a sacrifice, and you guys are overlooked so
yeah.
much.
Thank you. It is a family effort. There is a lot that goes on. And I know we talked about that connection of being a military family too, and
Yeah.
having that connection. And it is one of those things. The tempo and the pace of a military life is not one to dismiss. It is one. And I think, as a military spouse, I was just always doing what needed to be done. And I think so many women in our world do that. We just do what needs to be done. And at that point, when the American flag got handed to me by my sweet husband, he knew I was struggling with a lot of things. I was struggling with just exhaustion, just feeling tired. We did 10 moves in 20 years, and it was just the pace. And we have two young adult kids now. But at the time, they were launching, they were going to college and high school, and my role and identity was changing. And it was like in that minute of being a military spouse, I realized like everything changed. When I drove over to the ceremony, I was a military spouse. When I drove back, I was now what I was like confused. Am I still, what am I doing? And I had done so much, as many military spouses do, a lot of volunteer work, a lot of stepping in, helping your neighbor, doing all kinds of things. We want to make our communities better. And we're really taught to do that very quickly because we go to so many different communities. If we have that pace of moving, we have to connect and get embedded into our communities really quickly. And when you're in a community like that, you find really, you make quick friends. We always joke about, being in the school orientation and looking to the person next to you and saying, you don't even know them. And you say, will you be my emergency contact? Because I have nobody else here. And we're all in that boat together. So, but the things that were going on behind the scenes, I had changed and pivoted my career every move. I had reinvented myself over 10 times. And I just really was hitting that stage of perimenopause too. So my body was having shifts and I wasn't even recognizing some of the stuff, And so it got to the point where I looked in the mirror and I'm like, I don't even know who this woman is anymore. Who are you? What do you want? I was always making everybody else happy. But that's when I said, it is my turn. And I realized I had to give permission to myself. It wasn't just my husband saying, it's your turn. It was me claiming that turn. And I knew I had a lot of guilt, like I'm going to let somebody down, or that perfection, I have to do it all. And we can burn ourselves out quickly if we don't pay attention to that. So that's really the topic that I like really came forward for me.
That's amazing, and I wonder too, did you struggle with it feeling selfish? Because I feel like so many of us that have this support role where, like, and whether it be just moms or anybody else, military support, you're so used to not getting to be first. It doesn't really, and it sounds awful, but it doesn't really matter what you want. You have to put the other ones first, and then naturally, we fall into that with the children anyway, because it's not, and you don't find it, at least for me, a lot of times when I put the kids first, I'm not upset about it, but it's just life. And then I actually had my son ask me the other day, he's like, "Mom, what do you even like doing?" He's like, I hear you say you like watching me do this, and it makes you happy when you see me being happy." He's like, "But what do you like?" And I'm like, "I don't I don't
Yeah.
know."
Yeah, we invest so much time and energy into our kids, maybe our spouse and their
Yes.
career, that kind of thing, that we kind of always become second. And I really realized in all of this that there was a possibility that I could put myself first. And this took a lot of mindset work. It took a lot of reflection of looking at how I was thinking about things and just really seeing, I have totally flipped it. And a lot of clients I work with, by the time they understand, when I say fuel yourself first, that is a mantra. That's a really a practice that when you do, you show up so much better for everyone else. And it doesn't have to be, everybody thinks self care and rest needs to be lavish and everything. It could be just having 10 minutes of quiet time in the morning before the kids get up. And you notice when you start your day and you're not in that full speed, hair on fire, she's out to get somebody, versus that woman who walks in and says, whatever comes up. And but I have done the things that I want to do for myself. We show up in a different energy.
It's like that old adage, right? Like, when mom is happy, everyone's happy. And I say that one, and then the other one too that I like to remind people when I hear this, and I love the fuel yourself first, because how many times have I walked out the door making sure that the kids went to the bathroom, have their snacks and all that stuff, and then I start driving and I'm like, I didn't even grab my own water bottle, right? Like, everybody has everything that they need, but I forgot to make sure I had what I needed to get through the day. And it's between that and then, like, when you're on a flight. So I've been traveling quite a bit lately, and the flight attendant always says, if you actually pay attention, you know, if for whatever reason the oxygen mask dropped down, you have to put yours on first before you then help the person next to you. And we forget that. A lot of times we're so busy putting everyone else's oxygen masks on, and then we're finding ourselves gasping or not able to keep up. And it's like, oh, wait, we took care of you first. But it's those subtle shifts, and I love that you're saying that, because a lot of times when I think and I hear you need to put yourself first, it's like you need to find, and it's even for me, if I think about working out, I'm like, where am I gonna find 45 minutes to an hour in a day? Well, who said it had to be 45 minutes to an hour? Why can't it just be a 15 to 20-minute walk? Or I've been doing Pilates with my daughter. I'm like, oh my gosh, that felt so good. And it was just 15 to 20 minutes. And then, like, this morning I got up and I went to go do something. I was like, I need to do laundry. I need to do, and I said, you know what? I'm not. I'm actually going to listen to, and it's some mindset work that I've been running. I was like, why don't I just start my day kind of in this mindset and devotion type of moment? Because when the rest of the day gets going, but you were 100% correct. When I started my day that way, it was Monday. I'm like, it's Monday. Like, it's not like, oh gosh, I'm dragging. I'm like, no, it's
Yeah.
Monday. And it literally was only 15 to 20 minutes this morning that I got to
Yeah.
just kind of listen and just reflect. And I sat in the dark and I was like, the laundry can wait. Like, all of the other stuff can wait. I'm not going to dive into work yet. I'm just going to take this time. But that's also a one off. We'll see. I'm going to see how often I can keep this going.
Well, and that's the thing, as women, we think all or nothing. We've got to do it all 100%. And I love
Yes.
that you're bringing this up because I brought that up in the book. I said, let's look at this as snack size. Like, where can you put a snack size rest moment in your day? Sprinkle it through your day. It doesn't have to be like a 45-minute, like you said. I love that you're like 15 minutes. I've got it. And you notice how you feel afterwards. It's like having, the difference between a nourishing meal that is going to fuel you versus something that's really quick. It may not have as much nutrients in it, and you're like, you feel flat in a very fast time. And so, looking at what are those activities and what are those things that could just be 15 minutes or 10 minutes that fuel you. Sometimes this is as simple as even calling a friend and talking with a friend. Energy is a big piece in how we communicate. And in this day and age, we're disconnected so much. And even though we feel like we should be so connected with cell phones and technology, we get so disconnected from who we are and what we want in our lives. It's really easy to have that feeling of like, I feel selfish, all of that. We're watching other people in our lives too, whether it's parents, grandparents. And it's not that anybody is to blame. It's looking at how are we reacting and what do we want different? Who do we want to be? And what do we want in our lives? And that was like that moment when the flag got handed to me. It was like, I want something different. The only thing that was holding me back was the way I was thinking about this. Thinking that I wasn't able to give myself permission was something I had to start working on and building confidence. And, it doesn't come in just a 10-minute, aha, I got it. It's like living your life. You find those things, what feels good, and then you tweak it and you give yourself permission. We know our intuition, if we listen to our bodies, we're so wise. And I know we were talking before about just this rhythm of life and building our businesses. Sometimes, the best decisions we can make are the ones where we just really sit and feel it and know that this isn't right or I need to make some adjustments. When we do that, we show up so much better.
You're 100% spot on. And we were chatting about like the calendar and the schedule. And I say this and then I'm guilty of it, right? I'm like, don't get caught up in the shoulds. And there are so many shoulds, but then it's like the beauty. And you reminded me, it's like, well, as a business owner, you get to decide what your design looks like. And it's leaning in and listening to that intuition because I've been having this pull. And it's not, we were talking about connection and meet and greets. And it's not that I don't enjoy them because once I get on the phone, I love it. But then I was like, "This model's not working for me." I'm literally overwhelmed. I look at my calendar and I dread it, and I'm like, "This is not working." And it took me months, though. I did this for months, and I finally just last week messaged my systems team member and I said, "Okay, we're changing it up." Like, I just cannot continue down this path, and I was walking in looking at my calendar going, "I don't wanna." Now I'm excited because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, there's light at the end of my tunnel. The next couple of weeks are still a little crazy, but
Yes.
all of a sudden I go 2 weeks up and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's white space." I
Yes.
feel like I can breathe, and just already knowing that it's coming, I physically feel better. Like, I feel like I can let my shoulders come down a little bit and that I am breathing deeper, and it's also even allowing me to feel like I could have those 15 minutes this morning because I was
Yeah.
like, there's space coming, and I'm trying to create a world where, yes, I'm very ambitious. I have very big goals, but then I also have to remind myself for this phase of my life, I do wanna be a mom, and I do want to be present, and I don't want to be overrun and feel like I'm having to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to be able to get all the things done. But I'm curious, and we'll dive into like your method. But I think, like you mentioned, your brand is a reflection of what you've reclaimed. And I know that for me resonates in so many ways.
Yeah.
But what is your recommendation? Because I think this is what happens to so many of us.
Mm-hmm.
We get really caught up in titles.
Mm-hmm.
And I think you struggled with this because you even
Yeah.
said, driving to the ceremony, I'm a
Yeah.
military wife. Driving from the ceremony, what the heck am I? And it's like, well, I'm Shari. And
Yeah.
so how do we make that shift? Because so many of us get caught up in, I'm a mom, I'm a wife, I'm a business owner. And then if I go to pivot, like that's scary. Our
Yeah.
children grow and literally in the blink of an eye, it goes from they're hanging on you and needing you 24/7 to like I'm in that preteen phase where I'm literally just an Uber driver and I occasionally get a cuddle or I joke with my son, I'm like, "I swear you only call me when you want me to buy you something." No,
Yes.
that's
Oh
pretty
my
ex
gosh.
it's pretty extreme. My son is amazing,
Yeah.
but we went from, like, cuddles and whatever to, like, I swear I blinked and he's 15. But what is your recommendation for those of us that are trying to reclaim
Yeah.
an identity? Like, how do you establish who you are as a person and realize that the things that you do are just that, not
Yeah.
who you are?
Yes. Oh my gosh. There's so many good nuggets I could just like pull out of everything you just said. The should versus I get to is a really great phrase when you hear yourself say, I should. Stop yourself because should comes with so many expectations. It comes with what you described as that weight of feeling like this feels heavy, like something I don't want to do anymore. And if we start thinking about, I'll go through the calm method. That was what I discovered in all of this when I got handed that American flag. The other thing that I wanted to bring up, because you brought it up too, was the feeling in my body. I had been holding my breath for 20 years of the fear of the I have to, this should be this way, I'm expected of this. But I also held that because I had a lot of like, I didn't know if he was coming home some days, that fear. And what really came to me when that flag was handed in my lap, I was overwhelmed with because we've had friends who have lost their spouse and got handed that flag in very different circumstances. And the thing that came through from me was like, Shari, wake up. You get to do this. You get
Mhm.
to in this time rather than that feeling of obligation. And, that led me on the path to become like to just do a lot of self discovery and end up being a nationally board certified health and wellness coach. And so I developed this CALM method. And then the C is for clarity, clarity for who you want to be and what you want in your life. Every week, actually every day, something that I got in the habit of asking myself is who do I want to be? Meaning, how do I want to show up in my life today? And what do I want just for today or just for this week? Because we get so big in our dreams, which a lot of women, especially midlife, after with the kids and everything, we do say, I don't know what it's like to dream anymore because I've been doing things for everybody else. I put my stuff. So just asking yourself that question and know that clarity, the answers, they're not going to come right away in 30 seconds, in 2 minutes. It's leaning into what you just beautifully described of like, I felt it. I noticed it wasn't working for me anymore. And it's following that intuition of knowing what is it that I want? Who do I want to be? There's a lot going on in this world right now. And we have to ask ourselves, who do we want to be in this? I think that's how we begin healing is asking ourselves first and trusting that, and then showing up doing what do I want for this week alone? So looking and breaking down those goals of looking at what are those things you want for just this week. You might have those bigger goals, but we do have to chunk them down and break them down. And then the awareness piece is the next piece. It's just becoming aware of what is slowing you down. I call these the gremlins because these are the ones that are, we have been self sacrificing. I joke about it in the book, but I said I had a helium hand. I was raising my hand for everything. I'll be this, I'll help with this. And I burnt myself out doing it. And realizing those gremlins are, I don't have time. Time is really about priorities.
Yeah.
Looking at what you're describing, where's white space on your calendar? What are the have tos and what are the get tos? And we all have those in our lives that do feel like the have tos, whether it's with family. And it's just how does it get to be fun again? How does it get to be joyful? Joy gets buried under our expectations.
Well, that's powerful. Well,
That
and
is,
I'm gonna be honest, I've been using the get to even in my hard have tos because, like I mentioned, I have that teen and preteen, and so my daughter is 12 going on 22, and she is every version of the full sass and confidence I wish I had when I was her age. And
Yeah.
so sometimes I'm like, goodness, I want may your fierceness take you far in life if I can survive raising you. But
Yeah.
there's been a couple interactions lately where I have been frustrated and not with the most grace. And there I've walked away, and literally though the reframe I've been using in my head has been like, this is a conversation. I had to deal with this. No, I got to deal with this. I get to deal with this. Like I literally have to walk through that because I am very fully aware that even though it's a have to, in all reality for me, it's a get to. And that little tiny shift in verbiage makes me go, well, you know what? There's women out there dying and praying every single day to have the opportunity to have a child that they can go toe to toe with all of the sass and all of the
Yes.
attitude. And
Yeah.
so, yes, that get to shift. And oh my gosh, I'm stealing your gremlins. That's going to be
Yes.
a new one in my
It's
vocabulary. Like the
Yeah,
gremlins got me
no,
again.
it is. It's, I said the seven gremlins. It was, I always joke and I say I never could watch that movie because it freaked me out too much. But the gremlins in our lives are I don't have time. I don't have money. Money is one of those things that really is what are we putting value to? And the other shift that I've used, especially as a business owner, is what do I get to invest in? Rather than what does this cost me? It's what am I investing in? Because there is a return, whether it's I'm investing in this so that I can and fill in the blank. I mean, some of that is I invest in a virtual assistant so that it helps me lighten my load and it gives her the opportunity to better her life because I'm giving her business. Like I look at all this as a ripple now,
I love that.
ripples into our families too. When our kids see this, and then going back to the calm method, the learning to listen to your body, that's what the L is when you feel those things, because this is a thing as women, our health, why is it that we outlive majority of men? We're outliving men, but last quarter of our lives are some of the most unhealthy because we're riddled with disease, we're riddled with all kinds of different things that because we have either neglected ourselves or we haven't found the right providers to help us through it. We have been an understudied, under researched group, being a group of women in our health. And it's just becoming aware of it and putting what do you need? So learning to listen to your body isn't just it. Yes, I talk about food and moving your body, but it also is what are the ways you're resting?
Mm.
Rest in business, especially and in our lives, is a possibility generating activity. If we really
Expand on
learn,
that a little bit, please. A possibility
yes,
generating activity, because I remember seeing that in your thing and I was like, "Oh, I need to know more." A
yeah,
possibility generating activity. And that sounds so counterintuitive because we're always on the go. And
yeah,
so I've been guilty of saying, "I'll rest when I'm dead." Like, "I'll
yeah,
sleep when I'm dead." Like, it's fine. But then, all the studies and all the links are actually showing that if you don't sleep, that's where dementia sets in earlier or all of these health issues because we're not allowing our body to
yeah,
take the time to reset.
yeah,
And then I do find, at least for me, and there's a couple people that say it different ways, but it's like when you're resting or when you're having fun, you actually get to do more because you're doing it at a space of I get to, or this is fun and my energy is better. And I'm much more productive than when I'm drained and tired and just
yeah.
not living it. Possibility generating activity.
Yes, and that leads into the mindset piece. That's the end in it is mindset to say yes to yourself every day. And in the book, I wrote about that rest is a possibility generating activity. And as business owners, it's a revenue generating activity too, because we show up so much better. I think about the days that I feel really exhausted or really tired, and I know every business owner can relate to this. You're at the end of the day, you're thinking, this isn't working. I need to just throw in the towel. This isn't, you may be, I joke and I'm like, there's more deep breathing that is done on my office floor, me laying on it at times, because I'm like so trying and pushing so hard that when I realized rest needs to be part of my business plan. It really does, because that mindset is why businesses don't succeed,
Mm.
is because we take ourselves out of the game. And as women, rest shows up, like confidence shows up, joy shows up when we're rested. We feel a better version of ourselves. And so that's really what the calm method, if any of that resonates with you, that's what I'm talking about. And that really has led me to really coach women in this group. I'm finding like some of the most just joyful coaching that I do is with business owners, women in business, because we count ourselves out so fast, and we all need a yes team. If you don't have a yes team, you're more than likely you're going to burn out faster. You're going to get spun into a lot of different directions. You're going to feel no clarity. It's always like, what am I doing? I'm doing nothing but spinning my wheels.
You're on the hamster wheel. And I think sometimes we get so close to our own zone of genius that you need that person. And so I highly recommend, having a business bestie or a group of people that you can connect with that are, and for me, it was the best gift finding someone that does exactly what I do. And so I'm a very big believer in collaboration over competition. And honestly, for me, like, and I pursued it because I've heard some people say, like, I don't have a business bestie. I'm like, well, I didn't either. I met a lady at a retreat, intentionally tried a couple times. It took seeing her a second time and then literally being intentional. And I tell her this, I'm like, I pursued a relationship with you because I needed someone like you in my life. And now it is the best thing ever because we Voxer. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things where it's like, hey, this happened. And either I'm celebrating and I've got someone to celebrate big with me without having to go into a lot of detail as to why I'm
Mhm.
celebrating.
Yeah.
And then on the hard days, I will have somebody that I can vent with because entrepreneurship is not for the faint of heart, and it is definitely I either feel like I'm riding a high or I'm burning it down. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like there's honestly no middle ground. Like, I'm either like, "This is great, life is amazing," or, "This is for the birds," like, I'm just gonna stop and but when I have someone like that that I can message, and I know I've done the same for her, I've heard her reach out and say, and this is a struggle and I'm encountering this and like whatever. And I remember from other messages or knowing where she's at in her business, I'm like, yes, it's hard, but remember when you were here and then haven't you actually like had the best 3 months you've ever had? And she's like, oh my God, oh my gosh, you're right. Because we get so caught up in the fires
Yeah.
and then
We
we
can't
don't
see our own stuff.
that we're too caught up in it, and so I love your calm method. I think it's so simple, but that makes it beautiful because we tend to, and I love too that you're the snack size, like what you were talking about. It's like when you go to implement stuff, we tend to think we have to go all in. And I do the same when I talk about branding. I'm like, guys, and we'll use posting on social media, for example. That's a should. Everyone hears, I should, I should, I should. Yes, maybe. And then I say, how often also depends on what your goals are, but ultimately, what can you keep up with? Because if you haven't been posting at all, going into a 7 day a week cadence is unrealistic and you're going to burn yourself out. And then, I come back and I'm like, what is the small bite size that you can take on? And once that becomes a habit, then it becomes easier. And I don't know, I think about it and I get overwhelmed and I'll joke about the working out piece because I am not in a season of working out consistently. I will 100% admit. And then I look back and I'm like, you know what the winning thing was not trying to carve out an hour of my day. It was literally trying to carve out 10 minutes. But the number of times I would start working out and then all of a sudden magically find that if I can do this for 10, I'm here.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
can make another 25 minutes work, right? Because it's just getting started. And
Yeah.
then
Well,
that you were talking about, like the resting, I've been finding that as I lean into that more, and it doesn't have to be huge. Sometimes it really is just that deep breath in between a phone call or in between something and trying to create that space in our lives and ultimately giving ourselves permission. And this is where for me, guys, this is when I say this, hear this with a grain of salt and know that this is a work in progress. I do not master this at all. It is a constant attempt And some days are better than others, but it's finding the space and giving myself the permission to what you said earlier, pivot.
Mhm.
So when I get myself caught up in the rat race, because I do this to myself on a more frequent basis than I'd like to admit, but then it's also giving myself the grace to realize you got caught up on the hamster wheel again. It's time to slow down. And it's okay, believably so. Every time I slow down, my business goes forward.
Yes, I love that.
Every
That
time.
is, it is. And if anybody can just hear that, like when I slow down, my business goes forward. It
It's insane.
is, it is everything. And that's the thing we think because we've been conditioned by many things of like, if we just do more, if we hustle harder, if we do all that, because that's what the noise is around us. And when we start going, that isn't actually the truth and leaning into your truth, it's finding out what your truth is. And I love that you brought up the accountability piece here. Having somebody, your business beastie, whoever it is that knows they get it. They know, and they can reflect back those things. What did go well? What are you doing? What has been happening? Rather than because we have, and I quoted this in the book too from Cleveland Clinic, the Brain Initiative, there's 70,000 thoughts we have a day.
My
And
goodness.
we tend to have, and I really honestly think business owners, we have probably a lot more than that. But it is one of those that we have to look because we tend to lean towards a negative bias when we
Yes.
have those thoughts. Think about it. You think about something you want to do. How fast does it take? Probably only 3 to 5 seconds of already thinking about the reasons how you can't do that or what would come up or why you can't do it. It's just recognizing it. It's not judging it. It's just saying, there it is again. And I love
Yeah.
that you bring that up of like, this is a practice and we do fall out of practice, whether it's things that go on in our lives or different seasons that we have. And just noticing that we have a choice. We get to decide how we get to react to it. We can't really think that we're going to change certain circumstances. And that was the thing of being a military spouse that I learned. The chaos was the canvas that I got to paint my strengths. I did not realize that until much after being a military spouse was it gave me so many great attributes and strengths to being a business owner, to being a woman, to being someone who can show up and do what she needs to do for herself first and then it ripples out. But that's the thing these times and a business being a business owner is chaos, right? How can we calm that chaos? And 100% it starts with you.
Well, and I think you were mentioning how like societal norms and all that stuff. And it's one of the phrases that I've heard a lot, and especially we were very active in sports, but hard work pays off. And I feel like we are in this adage where you mentioned it, the harder you work, the more you do, the more that it'll pay off. And unfortunately, sometimes what ends up happening is that the harder we work, sometimes we're working at the wrong things or we're so much. And so, one of the things I was working on this year, because I kept hearing that I'm busy. And that's something that now to me, whenever I hear, I know you're busy, it literally drives me crazy, almost to the point where I'm having like a visceral reaction to it, where like I'm really trying not to snap back at the person that says, I know you're busy. And I'm thinking to myself, that's not a reflection on you, that's a reflection on me because I've created this world where everyone thinks I'm so busy. And I allowed myself to be busy. And so I have decided to try to reframe it. I'm like, it's not busy, I'm intentional. So then I have to ask myself too, though, as I'm getting caught up in my chaos, am I being busy or am I being intentional? And what needs to go? And then how? But some of this all seems so great in theory. Like I'm listening to you talk about your calm method. I'm like, goodness, I really love that reframe. Like I want to be clear on how do I want to show up today. And you just mentioned something, then you breezed right over it. And I want to circle back. We can't always change our circumstances. So, like, yes, as a military spouse, that did create a lot of chaos. And you have two options. You can feel like it's happening to you, or you can embrace the fact that this is your life and then look at opportunities. And I've been trying to reframe it this way too. Is it happening for you? a military life, as difficult as it can be, also has a lot of blessings and it has a lot of security, especially for someone who then gets to retire and all of those pieces. It doesn't make it any less hard while you're dealing with all of the change. But when you look at it as far as, and you say chaos with a smile on your face, so I absolutely love it because sometimes I laugh about that too. And I'm like, I wouldn't change it. My life is chaos, but intentional because it's simple things like I structure my day so that I can be present as much as possible. So, not every single day of the week, but as much as possible. But I do know that if I don't start my workday until 9, that's creating whole lot of chaos for me to try to get a lot done in between the hours of 9 to 4, which then bleeds. But I don't, and people say, like, oh, you could get help. I'm like, I could, but then I have to choose where am I getting help because I would rather get help in the business space because I want to be present for some of these other factors in my life. But yes, it's that reframe. And
Yeah.
so, and then the rest, like that, honestly, for me, that's my biggest struggle. I will say 100%. I feel like I'm starting to get better at the clarity. I'm starting to get better at knowing how I want to show up. I feel like, the learning, the pieces, all that stuff, but I'm like, gosh, it's that rest. Like,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
proving to yourself, and this is where if you're listening and you're like, yeah, that sounds phenomenal, ladies, not an option. My challenge to you is to try it. And remember, Sherry said snack size bites. I'm not saying you have to give up an hour in your day, but try 5 minutes. And whether that be deep breathing, I think you mentioned laying on your floor,
Whatever
deep
it
breathing. I have literally tried, I was just doing something the other day and I said, I don't know why. I have literally tried to fix this formatting like 15 different times. I shut the computer down, literally physically shut my computer. I walked downstairs. I got myself a cup of water. I think I let the dog out, got some fresh air, and was back at my computer in 5 minutes. But for whatever reason, when I opened my computer, whatever it was that I was struggling with was no longer a struggle and I got it done. And I was like, if I would have just sat here trying to fight with this, it probably would have taken me another 45 minutes. And I don't even know if I would have finished it. So that's that snack size bites that it's like sometimes you just have to break the concentration, take a quick walk outside. Fresh air to me is everything. Breath work is a whole new one that I'm learning. I've heard it before and I'm like, no. And now I'm like, oh, wait, this is a thing. Giving yourself oxygen? What is that?
Oh my gosh, you're helping your nervous system, and that's what it is. It's like this is all learning how to regulate your nervous system because your nervous system is giving all your body messages, and that's the health aspect that comes in is just noticing that when you're having these things where you're like the shoulds and the all of that, how much weight that feels and the pace, like you said, rest. A lot of it is those expectations that we put on ourselves that the house has to be a certain, the things have to be there's just all of those. I ask a simple question of what gets to let go, what do you get to let go of?
Mm,
And a lot of times it's the grip that we have on these expectations of ourselves of being a certain way. I spoke with a group of teachers last week, and the one she said, what if we've tried to get our spouse to help us and they don't want to help? I think that's what she said is they don't want to help. And then we had a beautiful conversation of how have you asked? And it was like, have you asked? And a lot of times we don't ask. We have this expectation in our heads. And so just looking at that piece just for a second is looking at, have we asked the person and have we told them why? Because the why is usually something that benefits everyone,
mm,
so that I can be able to go to the birthday party and really have fun with the family, whatever it is,
right.
so that I get some good sleep and I know that I'll be well rested and I'll actually feel better. My big thing now, especially being I'm mid 50s, so I am like on that sprint, not sprint, but just like soaking in what I can do for myself and what I can show up in my health so that I am on, I call it the nursing home prevention program,
Okay.
is I don't want to be a burden for anyone else in my late years. I want to be in the most awesome shape. I want to be able to be fit in the sense of strong. And strong doesn't mean like buff and everything. That means I'm not going to fall and break a hip and be one in that statistic that goes
Right.
down in fragility. So I joke with my husband. So now it's a very reciprocal thing. Are you getting to your Pilates class? I know you really enjoy that. Have you made time? When are you? So all of the people around you, when you say why you want their help or how they can help, it becomes an investment in everything with everyone.
Love that. And I think one of the challenges I find, at least in my own, and then in having conversations with other people, as women, we don't get asked. We are intuitive and we see, and because not for everyone, but for most of us, our nature is to see things and want to take that initiative and do it, right? But then it's you said ask the husband, and sometimes they don't. It's like, did we ask or did we just tell? Or did we even just look at them and be like, you should know? Like, do you not see the dishes piling in the sink? How can you not? And I can't tell you the number of times I've had this conversation with my own husband where I'm like, who asked me? Who asked me to make sure that the kids got a shower, like brushed their teeth and
Yeah.
got into bed? But I realized at some point, not early enough, but later on, where he was like, well, did you ever ask? I'm like, why did I have to ask? Once I got over that you
Yeah.
just have to ask,
Yeah.
it was a game changer.
Yeah.
And honestly, it was simple, and I didn't realize how simple it could be. And for me, when my kids were younger, it literally became a game. And if my husband listens to this, he's like, "Oh my gosh, you totally did that." It was my way of, and I say this in a lovingly like sarcastic because I'm a very sarcastic person sometimes. I had to find a game. And so literally my way around it was waiting for him to go to sit down, like he thought he was done for the day, and then letting his butt hit the couch and be like, okay, so are you doing dishes or giving the kids a bath? And it was this game that I played because it was the only way that I could do it to get myself to giggle without it becoming like a yelling thing.
Yeah.
But sure enough, a few months later, he didn't start sitting down. He before he would even sit, be like, "Okay, what are we doing today? What do you want? I'm tagging in." Or there was a couple times where he's like, "Don't even ask me. I got the dishes." He's like, "I don't know how you handle that. You go do that. I've got this." And then it became a habit. And so this is where I had to get over expecting that they would just know.
Yeah.
And then I
Yeah.
love how you said explaining what that means. So like if you're finding yourself in that tug with your husband or even with your children, it's like, guys, and I found even asking my kids, if I tell them, I need you to clean up the house, the instant reaction is a defense, right?
Yeah.
Like they're frustrated, they're whatever. But anytime I come in with, hey guys, I really need your help.
Hmm. It's
And they're
very
like, what is
passionate.
it, mom? What do you need? I'm like, I really could use your help with the dishes and then the this and then like the whatever. And then now they've even reframed it because they're like, it's not a I have to. I'm helping mom. Now, that doesn't work every single day, guys. It's not a magic pill, but it
But
has helped.
I love what you're saying here because it's boundaries, it's expectations, and it's the number one thing we all need to do more of. It's communicating,
Yes.
listening, asking, and just think in our world today how fast we could heal so many things if we bring in communication of that ask. And it does start in our own families. And then we become more confident. So then we begin to do that in our businesses and we
Yes.
begin to show up. And when we have that business beastie or those people, I need you to hold me accountable to this.
Key.
Saying that out loud, if you say that to any of a business beastie, man, we are on that. We are like, have you been doing that? You said you wanted it. Why did you want it? Like you
Right.
start to do those things and it's a beautiful thing. So I love that we gave all of these examples. So hopefully your listeners will grasp just whatever hits for you. Notice too. I had to notice this too. When there were things that like I resentment came up really big at the end of, you know, at the beginning of all of this was like I was feeling resentful in that fact, like what you said, everybody's, depends on me for this, but who's taking care of me And I put this in the book. Brene Brown said, resentment shows up when you see other people doing for themselves what you wish you were doing for yourself.
Wow.
And that was so powerful for me because it made me step back and look and see, yeah, that's why I'm feeling the way I am, because I'm not asking, I'm not, making it known to anyone because we want to keep the peace. So we think, and actually all that does is create it's a lot of chaos internally.
When it's that reframe where asking for or setting the boundaries and taking care of yourself is not selfish. And I
Yes.
think that is the key. And then honestly, you mentioned it earlier too. It's the phase of life that you're in. And I apply this to phase of business too, because there's different phases of a business. And it's what phase are you in? And give yourself permission to know that, like, if you have got a lot more going on, or if you're in the middle of writing a book, or you're on a deadline, or for me, there's been times where it's like I've got a workshop or an event coming up or something that's big, taking up a lot more space in my world. In those moments, I had to be okay with other things not getting done. And so then it's where you prioritize it. And it's like sometimes I went to bed and there was dishes in the sink and I just had to be okay with it. And then there was some times where I'm like, you know what? I'm in a good routine. Like I can ask for the help or I can do it or it feels good. But it's giving yourself that permission and grace to know that sometimes some things just kind of have to shift. And then my ultimate takeaway from this one though is that we get to prioritize ourselves first. And I love how you put it, fuel yourself first, but you have to shift the mindset that fueling yourself first is selfish. Ultimately, for us to be able to be the best version of ourselves, we have to be able to show up. And if we don't fuel ourselves first, whether that be eating healthy, resting, making sure that you're not resentful. And what is it? Like key into those things. Because when you just said that right now, like resentment is really because you're watching someone else do what you wish you could. I'm like, you just put words to
Yeah.
something that I've been feeling, but I'm like, how do you put and it's why do they get the strength and the courage and the confidence to show up that way? And ultimately what it is that they're just doing what they wanna do. If you wanna break that down to like the most basic science, the reality of it is that they're just doing what they wanna do. Give yourself the permission to do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. It really starts with our thoughts. Like everything starts with a thought because it creates an emotion and then the emotion turns into action or inaction. And the other key piece I want to say too here is when we have those things where we go, self care is selfish, flip it. Self care is a strategy. Self care is a strategy that you get to use every single day. So whether self care is doing that, I want to go for a walk and flipping that mindset of like, I've got to do a workout. That's the other thing that I hear with women all the time. We think it has to be a workout. What if we just go for a walk? How can it be where you just move your body? That kind of thing. So, yeah, self care is a strategy, whether you need a friendship, you need a business bestie, whether you need time to go outside and breathe and just enjoy, like use your senses. What do I see that's green? What do I see that's shiny? What do I see that feels good or hear, the birds chirping? Getting back into our bodies is the way that we start to really understand where we want to lean into and what we need.
Oh my gosh, so many gold nuggets today, Sherry. I'm like, okay, between the gremlins and the calm method and the definition of what resentment actually means. And then right now, that one. I think honestly, for me, I'm like, everybody needs to go sit down and put in their business plan self care and be clear on the fact that self care does not necessarily mean going and getting a massage and esthetician and all these pieces. What does self care look like for you? And if you have not been doing any self-care, start with snack-sized nuggets of self-care. Oh my gosh, I have so many that I'm like, okay, if you ever have a conversation with me in the next few months, you're gonna hear all of them because I'm literally taking things away. Okay, so if you have been listening and you want to find more on Sherry, where can they find you?
They can find me at my website, sharibiery.com. I have the book on there, It's Your Turn, which, it's like a little cookbook for self care. A lot of people have said, it's just a book you can pick up what you need when you need it. And so, yeah, and I'm on Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn. So connect with me. I love to cheer other women on and other people, and just know that you're worth it and that you are worthy of rest and self care. And it's your turn to say yes to you.
I love
Definitely.
that. So powerful. It is honestly your turn. And so for everyone that's listening, please follow Shari Biery. Again, all the things, their links will also be in the show notes. And until next time, remember, you don't need to have hustle to have impact. That's a wrap. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Branded Impact Podcast. If today's episode sparked something in you, please take a second to subscribe, leave a review, or share it with a friend who's ready to unlock their rebrand era. And if you're ready for a brand that's rooted in authenticity and built for impact, one that truly reflects your story, your energy, and your evolution, let's connect. Head to brandingbyjo.com or DM me on Instagram at brandingbyjo. Thanks for hanging out. Now get out there, show up with purpose, and make your branded impact. I'll see you next week.